We are super excited for this next session. We're going to hear from members of the Duchenne community around how they have learned to advocate for themselves and their experiences and how they've put self-advocacy into practice. Our moderator today will be Nevin Steiner, an MDA. Oops, I'm sorry. Did I miss it? No, I thought I messed up. But our moderator today will be Nevin Steiner, an MDA ambassador and a digital producer at ESPN, where he has worked for the last 16 years. At the age of 6, Nevin was diagnosed with Becker muscular dystrophy. He's a big fan of New York sports, loves the Yankees, Knicks, Jets. Nevin graduated from Loyola College in Maryland. He's married, has 2 kids, ages 6 and 2, and has 2 cats. And we are very excited to have Nevin here with us today. And thank you for moderating today's discussion around self-advocacy. We appreciate you sharing your story. We'd also like to welcome Charlie and Jacob, our 2 wonderful panelists today. I'm going to turn the time over to Nevin to do some introductions of Charlie and Jacob. But welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marissa. Glad to be here to share my story, Jacob's story, as well as Charlie's story. Jacob, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jacob. So I'm a senior in high school. I forgot my introduction. Pardon me. Can we go to Charlie? I'm sorry.
Charlie, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I am Charlie Mabry, and I have a disability called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And a little bit about me: I love playing video games. I'm a big Atlanta Falcons fan, so I'm a big Atlanta sports fan. And I'm also an MDA ambassador, so that's a little bit about who I am.
And you're currently employed. Where are you working?
Yes, so I have a part-time job, and I actually work for a household appliance warranty company. We do the warranties for household appliances.
Jacob, I'm going to throw it back to you. Tell us, you're in school. Are you going to head to college? What you're interested in?
All right. Sorry about that. Thank you. So like I said, I'm a senior currently, and I plan on going to college next year. And I'm interested in getting a degree in history. I also have Duchenne, and I'm also into video games, and I'm a big fan of music as well.
Excellent, excellent. So the first thing I want to ask you guys is, what does self-advocacy mean to you? Charlie, do you want to take that first?
Sure. So the meaning for self-advocacy for me is basically, so the community, where you live, they don't know much about what you need. And so I feel like it's important. Self-advocacy means that you are telling people what your needs are and what you need to be successful in life. That is what my definition would be of self-advocacy.
And Jacob, how about you?
I think Charlie makes a really good point about his definition. I think it's really good, and that's really just how it is. You have to make sure people are aware of what you need to be successful and how you can participate like with other people. I think is a good one.
Excellent. I'm 38 years old. Don't have Becker's, but don't have Duchenne's, but I do have Becker's. My parents at a young age taught me to, speak up for myself. I also dealt with a learning disability, so I always had to, teachers, the community, my family, my friends, tell them what was going on. The impact of, the disease didn't hit me until I was a little bit older, more recently. But now I think the most important thing is just really being open and honest with yourself and the people around you. Tell them what's going on and let them help you. I think that's the most important thing. So Jacob, how did you, develop your own advocacy skills? How did your parents help you, and the people around you help you get where you are today?
Well, my mom especially has always made sure that I get what I need and has always brought me in on any conversation we had about my needs or uh, the best way to effectively get things done for myself.
Charlie, can you talk about that as well, especially what your parents did to help you advocate for yourself?
Definitely. So, like Jacob said, I would say my mom also, because my mom, she would help me do stuff in high school. And then there was a point she was like, you know what, you're not doing much around the house. And she was like, well, how about this? How about I send you the emails that people you need to send emails to? And then I started emailing people, and then I realized that this wasn't that bad after all. So that is where I would say how I learned how to self-advocate for myself.
Do you have a story you want to share about an email or a letter you might have had to send to help get some resources that you needed?
Sure. So in high school, I was really involved with the football team, and to get to the stadium, you had to go on the sidewalk. But the thing is, from the front of the high school going out, there was no way for me to get up on the sidewalk. So I had to go on the road, and there's cars coming to pick people up, there's cars dropping people off, and they would have to go around me. And I was like, you know what? I don't feel like this is really safe for me. And so I decided to write a letter to my principal, and I told him the situation. And a few days later, I got called into his office, and he was like, we talked to this person about getting this resolved for you. And it was like, I guess, like the county sidewalk or something like that. They do like the county roads and sidewalks and stuff. And so he said, and we're going to make this happen. And so they added it was a speed bump, and they added one across the entire, all the way down until you got to the sidewalk. So I didn't have to go on the road again, that I was just able to go up right on the sidewalk, because the way that the road was designed, they weren't, for some reason, able to add, like the ramps that you go up. So they had to make it a speed bump, but we made it so I was able to get across safely.
And Jacob, you're about to head to college next year. What kind of resources, are you and your parents thinking about that you're going to need while you're there? And are you going to be independently living on campus?
We have been doing a lot of research about this. My mom, especially, just like over the years, but especially recently now. And we have a pretty good idea of how I'll be able to successfully live on campus, and it we have not been able to see all of the accessible dorms, but from what we've heard from like the college I'm planning on attending, uh, it it's definitely accessible, and I should be able to successfully live independently on campus.
Very good. Working at ESPN. ESPN's based in Connecticut. I've been there for 16 years, as Marissa said. But the handicap parking there isn't as close to the door as I would like. So I've been doing this a little bit longer, advocating for myself, being away from home and on my own with my own family. But I have to advocate at work for the resources that I need. And, one of those is better parking and speaking up and saying, I need a spot closer to the door to help me get in, especially because I work nights and weekends, and late at night, you could be tired. So it's always been the way I was brought up. If I have a problem and there's something I want to change, reaching out to the right people and getting things done. Anything at work, from more accessible bathrooms to the higher desk chairs. And one of the stories that I have with people that I work with is I'm not afraid to tell them, what's going on with me physically, and to have them help me out. Because, carrying things or walking unassisted can be a little bit more challenging at times, especially late at night. So speaking up is really important. Charlie, can you talk about, other scenarios where you've had to communicate your needs and how you've gone about that? maybe in the community, at home, at your house?
Definitely. So another thing I did was I wanted to be able to go on the sidewalk, and it wasn't safe for people there wasn't a sidewalk, so it was just grass. And so I wrote a letter to my community again, through the county I'm in, and I told them this thing, and I wrote a petition, and the whole community signed the petition. My school backed me up and everything, because I was like, in case there's an emergency, where like the car broke down, where would I go? Right? I couldn't go in the grass. So I thought that was something important. So I wrote them a letter and the petition, and now we have sidewalks all the way around to get to the school, because I'm literally 5 minutes. It's literally 5 minutes down the road. So I felt that's another thing I did. And then also in college, I know I didn't. So when you first start college, you don't really have all the resources and everything that you did in high school, because they're not used to having, some colleges aren't used to having people with disabilities. And so I had to tell my teachers my situation, and they would give me extra time. Sometimes they would let me, if a presentation, they would let me have a little longer to talk, because sometimes it's harder for me to do that, like when I have a set time I have to do. And then also writing notes is something that was hard for me. So the presentations that they would be presenting, they would print it off for me, so I would have it and not have to um, write everything down. I could take my own notes on the actual PowerPoint itself.
How did you know who to write a letter to for the sidewalks?
So I went to our county website and I pulled that up, and I found their email, and then I just sent them an email explaining the situation. And of course, I showed it to my dad, and he helped me perfect it to look professional. And then we sent it off.
Jacob, can you talk a little bit about the accommodations you've got in high school?
Yeah, a lot of the accommodations for me personally have been in terms of like lunch. I leave a little bit before class is over, so I have plenty of time to eat. Uh, and with classwork, I can do everything on the computer instead of having to do worksheets. Um, and teachers definitely give me extra time to submit something if it's like if it has to be written or something like that, because occasionally you have to have someone else write stuff down. Uh,
Was it hard in high school to communicate, the accommodations that you needed to the teachers?
that wasn't particularly hard in high school. I know it's going to be more difficult in college because they won't have a 504 plan for me like they do at school.
But when you did your 504 plan, did you and your parents do that together?
We did. Uh, we talked about it and what I needed, and then we met with my guidance counselor and we discussed it with her uh, and got everything that I needed.
Excellent. It sounds like both of you have parents that have made you very involved in the process along the way. Um, Charlie, can you give, some advice that you would give to someone else who's, struggling to find their voice in this process? So give them some tips to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say use your resources if you feel like something isn't right in your community. Just go to wherever your county website is, and you can find anybody. You can find the council, send an email to, the parks and rec. You can find all that. And also, I feel like just sending emails, it might not look like a professional email, but just you have your parents, so you can have your parents just help you get make it look professional. And then once that happens, then you're like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then you start advocating for yourself. Those are some tips that I would give you. So if you ever need any help with anything, definitely just use your resources. And I also know MDA has a bunch of, if you go on their website, has a bunch of resources also to get for all this kind of stuff that you would need to get stuff done also.
When you started out on your independent journey, were you comfortable speaking up?
No, I definitely was not comfortable. I was shy, but then I realized as I started to speak up, when my parents would speak for me, it was like, oh, like they're speaking for me. But when it comes from me, they're like, wow, he really does struggle. He really does need these accommodations and everything. So I feel like it's really important to make your voice heard. It's really important.
And Jacob, how did you become comfortable speaking up?
Well, for me personally, I'm the kind of person that'll talk your ear off if you let me. So with me, I don't think it was necessarily as difficult, but it definitely helped that, from an early age, I've definitely been involved in, what I need and how I can achieve my goals. And I definitely think that my parents helped a lot in my early years to help me get, used to telling people what I need.
For me, I'm not in a wheelchair or a mobility device yet. I have a walking stick that helps me out, and things are becoming more and more challenging, but manageable. Um, the last couple of years, it's definitely been the hardest thing is opening up to people and telling them what you're going through. But then when I started to do it, it felt liberating. It felt like, oh, no one cares. They're happy to help. Whatever you need, you find out who the people are that care about you in your life, and you go forward. And once you sort of break that wall down, it makes it a lot easier. Charlie, do you want to share some examples of challenges you've had along the way?
Definitely. So some challenges I would say is, so when there's like, say like you, I guess a situation that I was put in when I was in college was, there was a fight where like the fire alarms went off, and the elevators don't work during that time. So basically I was stuck, like not stuck, but the security guards had to put me onto this chair, and then they had to use the chair to roll me down the stairs, and then we got outside, and then everyone's like looking at you, and then they had to bring me back in. I had to go back up again, and everyone had to see how I get in and out of my chair, which I was kind of embarrassed about. But that was one challenge I would say that I've run into. And also another challenge is sometimes the first person you email will give you a whole nother answer than someone else, and you realize that, oh my goodness, I could have talked to this person the whole time and would have gotten this all completed, without even having to go through that other person.
There's
So those are
definitely
some challenges.
definitely a lot of legwork that goes in when you're talking to people to get things done. Has the embarrassment, I assume, went away, and it's not something you feel very often anymore?
Yeah, definitely not embarrassed anymore. I'm really open about my disability. If someone has a question about it, about my disability, I just go ahead and I tell them. I feel like it's really important to tell people a little bit about who you are. Having Duchenne, it isn't who I am. It's just a part of me. That is what I like to tell people.
I was recently on the beach, and I have my walking stick with me, and people are looking, and I want to just go up to them and like, "Hi, I'm Nevin. I have Becker's muscular dystrophy. Nice to meet you." Like,
Yeah.
no big deal to me. Just ask if you have a question, but it is funny. Um, Jacob, can you talk about some challenges that you went through and are going through maybe?
Certainly. One particular challenge I faced was my freshman year. Our the Spanish teacher I had to leave for personal reasons, and the teacher we got in replacement was not very accommodating to me. Multiple times I had to go talk to my principal or get my mother involved for her to properly, grade my assignments or to give me enough time to get to class. And that was definitely a struggle, but we eventually worked through that. Um, and it was very frustrating for me, but I definitely think I learned a lot from that in how to deal with difficult situations.
It's definitely not always going to be easy. Not everyone's as understanding as they should be. Going to bring in a question from the audience, even though we can't see them. Scott, who's 57 years old and has Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. When he went to school in the 70s and 80s, there were not very many resources for disabled students, and we had to spend a lot of time advocating just to participate. Do you guys find, and I'll start with Jacob, there are a lot of resources now that allow you to participate not just in school, but also in the extracurricular activities?
There are definitely a lot of good resources, and most people are very accommodating when it comes to that sort of thing. Uh, Occasionally, it might be more difficult, but pretty much with anything that I'm interested in doing, like extracurricular especially, they definitely make it very easy for someone like me to be involved in it if I wanted to.
What kind of extracurricular activities have you been involved in?
For a while, I was on the esports team that we had. Uh, I wasn't, I didn't participate in it a full year, but I was in it for like a semester, or a quarter. And it was definitely a good experience, and it was very accommodating. But it's not. It doesn't have to be too accommodating for that kind of thing.
I can understand that. Charlie, can you talk about the same question?
Definitely. So I would say there definitely are a lot of resources, but in my situation going through school, there's not a lot of people around here that have um, different disabilities like mine, like muscular dystrophy. There's not many people in wheelchairs. So I had to tell everyone. So I would say definitely there would be a bunch of resources from my school now because they went through with me. Um, and yeah, so I would stay after school for certain activities, and I would have like a friend, because I would need help opening the bathroom door to get in the bathroom. So I would definitely ask my friends. But I would say there are a lot more resources than there used to be to do extracurricular activities and stuff like that.
And what kind of activities did you participate in?
So I was involved with the football team. So I got to, on Fridays, I got to hang out with them after school. I would have the dinner with them, and then we would go down to the locker room. But the main thing I was involved with was theater. I was on the stage. I loved the stage. And I was in a bunch of shows. The first show I was in was Bye Bye Birdie. And then the last show I was ever in was Greece, and I was Eugene. So those are some extracurricular activities I was involved with in high school.
I know you mentioned you have a part-time job. Can you tell us more about that, and also tell us about some of the accommodations that might be at the job?
Yeah, definitely. So I do have a part-time job, and I would say some of the accommodations that I needed was like extra time, because you need a lot of typing. But I wouldn't say I'm bad at typing, but I'm definitely not as fast as someone else that doesn't have my disability. And so they definitely do see that. So like there's certain numbers that you have to reach, but they understand that it's harder for me to reach those numbers. So mine is not, I guess, they do see that I am working, that I'm definitely trying to keep up and everything. And also, they make sure that I had all the technology and everything that I needed to be successful for my job.
do you feel like you're able to, be as productive as you can be within the job despite the limitations?
I definitely can, because it's a customer service job. So if I'm good at talking like I am doing right now, I can get a lot of information to them through speaking. And I definitely have had to learn to multitask, and that is definitely something that is definitely difficult. Um, but I would say it is not as hard as it used to be. It definitely is getting easier once I got the hang of things and everything.
So we have another question from the audience. I'm not going to say the first name because I'm afraid I'm going to say it wrong. I apologize for that. I'm a mom and I'm very concerned. My college child wants to live at home, not in campus. How do I go about having the conversation to get he or she more comfortable? My son, that he'll be okay at college. Jacob, you want to talk about it, how you're going about being comfortable going to college and being independent?
Sure. I know it depends on what your son is like, but for me, I've always been more interested in, being independent and wanting to do things on my own. And I know sometimes, it can be scary to do things on your own. And I think just encouragement is probably more important than like just telling him outright, because, I understand sometimes you need to. Uh, and I think for, that specific case, I think if you just, explain to him, why you think it's important that he has, a little bit of independence, even if, it's not fully independent, I think if you just explain to him why that's important, then it would probably help him a lot.
I would say one of the things that you can do to help him with that, just give him as much independence as possible while he's still at home. Make him feel comfortable doing tasks on his own. I think also trying to explain to him the benefits of being on your own and being independent and learning how to take care of yourself. And I think when you end up doing that, living alone, taking care of yourself, the more you're independent, uh, um, the more you feel empowered with your disability, to be a part of society, to go about your day to day tasks, and just be happy with yourself because you're going to learn more about yourself that way. Another question we have is how do you go about making friends when you have a disability? Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, Becker's muscular dystrophy. Charlie, do you want to talk about how you went about making friends and your social circle?
Sure. So how I went about making friends was I really got into video games. And when I got into video games, I realized that I could talk to someone from all the way on the other side of the world from the comfort of like my own house. I know that sounds it sounds scary. But definitely I've met some amazing people. I've actually been friends with someone for about 6 years, and I've never met him in person before. But we talk to each other almost every single day, and also and live streaming. So I stream on a platform called Twitch. That is something that I do, and I also get to connect with people there too. Those are some ways that I have made friends being like stuck at home and everything. Not really stuck at home, but when the whole world shut down, that is when I really found those resources really beneficial, because I realized that if I go out, I don't want to end up catching the virus and everything. So I stayed home and everything, and I connected with people through streaming and through gaming. That is where I've met most of my friends.
What about in-person friends?
So in-person friends, that is something that is really hard for me. But I met a friend in high school, and I'm still friends with her. And a lot of the times, she will introduce me to her friends, or like my brother and sister, and they introduce me to their friends also. And then I end up meeting I've end up becoming friends with them. That is how I made friends in real life. But nowadays, that is something that is really hard for me too, I would say, is making friends in real life, which is why I make a lot of friends from online, is where I really meet most of my friends.
Jacob, you're in school right now. How is it going about making friends at school, or can you talk about the friends you do have at school?
Yeah, I guess I make friends with people very easily. You know, I'm somewhat of an agreeable person when it comes to like other people's personalities and stuff. So I think, you know, making friends can be difficult for some people, but I personally don't think the disability makes it much harder to make any new friends, but that's just me personally.
I think the biggest thing for me in life, making friends, was just being who I am, being yourself and not being afraid. I can see the biggest thing that people go through is um, are people judge them, and if they judge you, they're not your friends. You're going to find out quickly who your friends are, and I think that's very helpful. Um, so if it's just someone you don't need in your life, but if you're open with who you are, you're going to find true friends in life. Charlie, now that you're out of school and you're working, what kind of self-advocacy do you have to do when it comes to your medical care?
So when it comes to my medical care, a lot of times my mom will talk to me about if I want to do this or if I want to do that. But when it comes to having to talk to my doctor, I guess she really does that part for me, because you can definitely I filled out this form that my parents can still see my medical records, that it's not just me and making my own decisions. So that is something that I do. And also I self advocate for myself, because sometimes the doctors are asking me questions, and I will answer them. I trust my parents. Some of the questions they ask you, they're like, do you want your parents to stay in the room? And yeah, I definitely do want them to still be in the room, because sometimes I want them to hear what's going on. But when it comes to self-advocating for my medical care, my mom she asked me like my opinions of different things that I want to do, and then she will help me get that taken care of and make sure that we get everything taken care of there.
I am 38 years old, but I do not like going to doctors by myself. Even if I do most of the talking, if it's my wife that comes or my dad, I still like someone else in the room to like listen to everything, because you can't do it all on your own. To have someone else give a thought or an opinion is always big. But I've never felt at any age, and I've been doing this for a long time since I went to college. I've been basically on my own going to doctors. I'm not afraid to tell them what's going on in my life. But it does, it helps to have someone there to help you along the way, even when you get into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, how's it been for you?
Uh, I think it. I just recently I'm starting to, you know, get involved more with my own medical health, and I definitely think it is helpful to have someone with me. But I also do most of the talking whenever I go to the doctor. Uh, the only thing I really need help with is keeping track of how many medications I take.
That can be challenging for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things outside of medical care, And for me, my medical care involves, the primary care doctor, the cardiologist, the neurologist, physical therapy. There's a lot of different things that I have to do and keep track of. But also, I found in Connecticut, and I think a lot of states might have this, there was an organization when we bought our house that helped with how to make it more mobile for working. So as Charlie talked about, like if you look things up on the internet, you don't know what you're going to find, what resources are out there, and then who you can contact. But I was able for my job, and this might be the same for going to college as well, to get like a more accessible bathroom, a more accessible entryway to the garage and to the stairs, and they do things for you at work as well. The good thing working for, it sounds like working for ESPN like I do, and where Charlie works, they're able to work with us and help us along the way of what we need, which is huge. Charlie, are you working fully remote, or do you go into the office?
So I am fully remote because my office, I'm in Georgia and the office is located in Kentucky. So that's a long drive. So yeah, so definitely it's all remote, which is awesome. I love it, but also it can be challenging sometimes because you're at home, and so I actually have two separate desks. I have one for fun things, and then I have my separate desk. So my mind is focused on work and not anything else.
That's the one thing that was good about COVID. It made us find out that we can work remotely. There's enough technology out there. So I only have to go in half the week at home, half the week in the office. And sometimes I don't even want to go in. I'm like, I can do this from home. There's a computer, there's a Zoom, there's a video chat. We're good to go. We can get all the work done. I can get all the highlights cut for ESPN while I'm from home. So why should I go in? But it's definitely, the plus side of being live in school or at work is to be around people. But as Charlie said, if you're not around people, there's a lot of resources to connect with people and to become more outgoing. Jacob, can you talk about your school and how it's been being in the building? I assume you're in the building 5 days a week for school, or going to be 5 days a week for school shortly.
Yes, that is true. For quarantine, it was nicer when I was able to work from home, but I also missed being in person a lot. Because for many years I was homeschooled, actually, and up until high school, I was homeschooled, and it was definitely, in my opinion, I think it was a lot more difficult to do everything yourself, like without anyone else around. So I have been going to school, and it's very tiring to go every single day, but I think it's worth it, to be around other people.
It sounds like you're very outgoing. Has that really helped you advocate for yourself? And I'm just curious, like when you go into the building, you're in a wheelchair, correct?
I am.
Like, is everyone friendly? Is there anyone that isn't friendly, that looks at you differently, that judges you, or is your personality and the way things are? How does everything go?
I think, just being a kind of a people person does help. When it comes to that, like I'm able to communicate better with a lot of people, I think that way. And of course, there's some people who have issues with like people who are different than them, but that doesn't really bother me personally all that much because it most people don't say, things out loud. You can kind of just tell how they are. But I think, you know, just being there, and being able to talk to other people is helpful, and it doesn't there hasn't been too much of an issue just going so far.
Yeah, going back to the mom who asked about making friends, I think it's just, not being afraid to get rejected. But I think from the conversations we're having, most of us, your real friends are right there for you from the start. Um, Charlie, when you were in school, how was it for you? How was the environment?
I loved it. Everyone loved me. People would because I was, like I said, I was involved with the football team. So every morning all the football players in the hallway, and of course, I go down the hallway, and everyone decided to call me Chuck. So you would hear that from down all the way at the other end of the hallway, and people would just say hi to me. Teachers would say hi to me. Teachers that weren't even my teachers that knew who I was, because I felt like you said, I was myself, and everyone, I guess, just being myself, everyone loves it when you're yourself. So definitely, no one ever picked on me in school. No one ever did anything, probably because, like I said, I was always myself.
I work at ESPN because I love sports, but I wasn't very good at sports. I did get to, I tried throughout, growing up, a little soccer, baseball, basketball. Somehow I made the varsity tennis team. I think it's because the tennis team was just really bad and they just needed people to play. But working at ESPN might be different than some jobs because I'm around people that love sports as well. And basically I'm watching my teams for a living. So I would say advice to, to kids and parents is, find what you're passionate about if you're not an outgoing person, and, join activities, do things with people that have similar interests to you, because that will definitely help you open up. Jacob, is there anything else that you want to add?
Not necessarily anything new, but I think your point on, just being yourself and like trying to find common interests is really important, especially like, when you're around my age. I think it's important to like, learn to just be open about who you are and, you know, why what you have, like if you need accommodations or whatever. I think just being honest and making sure other people are aware is definitely the best way to be successful.
And as we've all talked about, speaking up, going on the internet, talking to people, if it's at your school, if it's at work, at college, like you're going to find the resources you need just by, opening your mouth and having a conversation with someone. Charlie, is there anything else you would like to add?
Sure. So I know we've been talking to someone the question about earlier about making friends with people. I will say, and I see someone else mentioned it, but if you've never heard of MDA Let's Play, the MDA Let's Play community, it is definitely a way that you can connect with people. You can find common interests. It says Let's Play, but I promise you it's way more than just gaming. If you check that out, I know it's on their website. MDA Let's Play is on the MDA website. If you type that in the search bar, I've done it a few times. If you type that in, you can find how to connect to there. But I've connected with people with my same disability, people within the MDA community, and we all share common interests, and we have definitely formed friendships there as well. So that is something I would definitely recommend checking out also. And I'm a big advocate for that also. So that's another way that you can definitely make friends with people.
Totally agree with that. I think the hardest thing for anyone in this conversation is, going around and not seeing people like you, not being around people that have similar challenges, because sometimes you feel like you face the challenges alone. But the good thing is, we all have family that help us out through those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, what advice might you give your younger self for, dealing with advocating for yourself?
I definitely think, you know, I would want to say, the best way to, advocate and be successful with your advocation is definitely to be honest with everyone. You don't need to, feel embarrassed or bad about asking for, special help that that you need.
Very true. I do think, there are times where all of us will feel embarrassed, but don't dwell on it, and just be open and comfortable in your own skin. Charlie, what advice would you give your younger self?
the advice to give my younger self was just to be who I am. I would say when I was younger, but really when I joined high school was when I found my true self. But then after I graduated high school, then I really found who I was, and I realized that being myself make people just want to be my friend and not just be my friend because I have a disability. Because I feel like some people are like that way, but when people see that you're just a person just like them, just by being yourself, then that is something that I would definitely tell my younger self.
I think I don't know what I would tell my younger self, because when I was diagnosed at the age of 6 on, it was always like parents just said, you're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get the care that we need. We're going to talk to people. We're going to break down doors. And I was like, whoa, Mom, is that okay? Like, come on, we can push back a little bit. We don't have to get everything we need. It's all right. We can stay a little bit quiet. But as Charlie and Jacob said, like, be open, be who you are, tell people who you are, tell people what you need, speak up. Don't be afraid to speak up, because in the end, as you can see from all of us, you're going to get what you need. You're going to get as much as you need. If it's, the accommodations I've asked for at work, or the accommodations I've got at my house, or Charlie working from home and not having to go into the office, even though they are based in Kentucky, and that would be a really long drive. Jacob heading off to college and, figuring out where he's going to live on campus and be independent. Like, it's all about speaking up and finding your comfort zone. Do you guys have any other things that you want to add?
I do not.
I think we've covered a lot. Jacob, anything else you want to talk about?
I'm honestly not sure. Nothing else immediately comes to mind, at least.
Excellent. I think we had a great conversation. Please drop any other questions that you might have in the chat, and hopefully we can answer them. But if there are no more questions, thank you everyone for attending today.
Nevin, Charlie, Jacob, thank you so much. This has truly been such a wonderful discussion, and powerful to hear your stories. So thank you for participating, for being here tonight. I'm going to just check and make sure, see if we have any questions coming in. Somebody shared that their child, for the most part, handles his disability well, but when he gets frustrated, he gets a little depressed. Have you guys ever dealt with depression, and how did you overcome it?
So having Becker's is a little bit different than having Duchenne's, and the significance of the challenges have become more in my face over the last couple of years. And you do deal with depression. I mean, it doesn't, not clinically diagnosed depression, but you feel down at times. And one of the things that I was told recently was, just want to be validated. I just want someone to tell me it's okay to feel bad about that. And then having people around you that, speak up and say, look what you are doing. Look at the things you can do. Don't think about the things you can't do, but it's going to happen every once in a while. Jacob, do you want to address it as well?
Sure. I definitely have also experienced, a lot of anxiety and negative feelings about my disability. And I definitely think, you know, de depression is fairly common with, disabilities like this. And like like you said, a lot of it is, you want to feel validated, like, obviously you're going to feel bad, and it just helps sometimes when other people, understand it rather than trying to just, you know, tell you to get over it or whatever. It just is more of something you have to just, learn to deal with on your own, but definitely it helps when other people are understanding.
Charlie, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, so that definitely does happen to me sometimes, where I feel like that, I feel depressed, like nothing's changing, that what I'm trying to do is, I guess I feel like I hate change is something. So when something changes in my life, anything like schedules, anything like that, then I start to go down a slope. But then I realize that what's the point of going down this slope? We all definitely do have that feeling. But then I just try to keep myself, motivated to doing the next part of what I want to do in my life. So that is I look forward to, all the positive that I can bring into the world, and that's what really helps me get through all the depression inside me. Definitely, that is what I do.
I mean, I have, when I start to get depressed, got to remember I have 2 kids. I have 2 cats. I have a good job. I'm here right now to have this conversation. I'm, 38 years old and going about life the best that I can. So sometimes you're going to get down. You're going to be depressed for a minute there, but then you got to look on the bright side and see what is going well for you.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss any other questions?
I'm just double checking the chat. Just a very nice comment, Jacob, Charlie. I think it's great to hear that you are both great advocates for yourself and you are moving on to greater things for yourself. And I'll just echo that attendee member's words, how really it's great to see how confident and assured you are. And thank you for sharing those experiences. I think that they will resonate with many on the call today. I'll just make one final call for questions.
I think someone just had a comment. I have 2 kids with Duchenne's. It's very challenging me sometimes. My dad has gone through that, where when he sees the changes, sometimes it's more challenging and it can be upsetting and feel bad for me. But I always give him the same piece of advice: come and help me. Don't feel bad for me. Come and help me. Let's get through this together. I don't want you to feel bad for me. I want you to be there to support me along the way. But just like Charlie, Jacob, and myself go through it, you can feel depressed. But think about, when that happens, what you can do to help and the positives in your kids' lives that you see every day, and smile about it.
Thank you so much. And Nevin, we appreciate you moderating and facilitating the conversation. And Jacob, good luck as you look into college. And Charlie, continue on with all the great things you're doing for your job and advocating. And both of you, just best wishes there. And thank you for joining us. And also Nevin. I'd also like to thank our symposium supporters, BioMarin, Edgewise Therapeutics, NS Pharma, PTC Therapeutics, Sarepta Therapeutics, Entrada Therapeutics, and REGENXBIO. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to put on these kinds of programs. So thank you very much for the support of our community. So this concludes our 2022 MDA Engage Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy Symposium. Thank you very much for attending, and have a great rest of the afternoon or evening, depending on where you live. So thank you, everybody.